I want us to go on a real date. Like real. I've seen how you look at me.
Rafiki is a delightful sapphic film out of Kenya that follows a young woman called Kenna as she falls in love with Ziki over a summer.
Do you want to do something?
We could go get a soda.
A soda? Cool.
She has just finished high school and is waiting on her exam results so she can plan her future, and spends the time helping her dad out at his corner store or hanging out with her friends.
Just like guess what you have.
A C, yeah.
Okay, like aim higher.
C plus.
That's what you got.
I get to be a doctor.
Yes.
That's what this means.
That's what that means.
I can get a scholarship.
Yes. And you're the one who wanted to be a nurse.
Her father is running in the local election, which means that when her eye is caught by Ziki, the daughter of his political rival, even a friendship is frowned upon.
But you know what they're going to tell me? What they're going to say? Why are we supporting this guy, yet his own daughter doesn't?
In spite of this, the two girls start to hang out, drawn together by a recognition that they are different and dream different to other girls around them.
Let's make a pact that we will never be like any of them down there. Instead, we're gonna be
Something real?
yes, something real. Yeah.
Their friendship deepens into love, but being together could prove dangerous in a community that doesn't tolerate homosexuality. If you want to know if it ends well for them, I will let you know that at the start of the spoiler section. The film, by and large, is light and positive. This is shown not just through the bright colour schemes and saturated colour grading, but through how it isn't a film that leans into the angst of them discovering their feelings. Their attraction is something that progresses with little internal struggle from either of the ladies, which I found absolutely lovely. We got to enjoy their burgeoning chemistry, and it makes for a charming and uncomplicated start to their love story. It also plays very well into how the film ultimately ends, which I'll discuss in the spoiler section. The reason for this is established at the start of the film when Kenna is hanging out with a couple of her guy friends at the local kiosk, as they call it, for a drink. A young gay man is taunted for being gay, something that Kenna makes a relatively weak protest to. The hostility towards homosexuality is clearly established, and even though this character doesn't say a word throughout the film, we see him multiple times as a way to underscore what is at stake for Kenna and Ziki in pursuing a relationship. He shows up again with a black eye. He is seen sitting in church while the priest gives a sermon on how homosexuality is debased and wrong. It seems that Kenna, knowing that she is the same, keeps her distance from him, refusing to ally herself with him because to do so would be dangerous. And it is the same fear that keeps her from making a decisive move on Ziki until it is absolutely clear that it will be well received. Which, honestly, totally fair, because her fears are not unfounded. But it also speaks to the loneliness that making this choice creates, how it isolates not just herself but this young man too, when they really need each other in order to face a society that doesn't accept who they are, which makes the moment when he comes to sit by her later in the film all the more poignant. What's interesting is that while he doesn't look any gayer than Kenna, it is he who is targeted, while Kenna appears to be, until she starts her romance with Ziki, somewhat immune, getting to hang out with the boys and play football. Perhaps it is because she hangs out with guys and that Blackster clearly has a romantic interest in her, offering a veil of possible heteronormativity, thus shielding her from deeper societal scrutiny. The woman who owns the kiosk and her daughter serve as a proxy for that society and the dangers that face Kenna and Ziki. They are always watching and listening, eager for the next piece of gossip. They watch as Kenna and Ziki come to the kiosk for a drink the first time they hang out together. They watch as Kenna and Ziki take a tuk-tuk to go out to town together. When they have their first argument because Ziki, far less afraid of the consequences of their love, probably because she has not been faced with the prejudice that Kenna has already internalized due to her parents, is trying to touch Kenna while in church as the priest gives his homophobic sermon. The daughter of the kiosk owner slides up to listen to their argument. In some ways, they are not cautious enough in hiding their relationship, publicly going out, hugging, having Ziki do Kenna's hair, and looking at each other in ways that friends don't in public. Suspicions are certainly roused with their new relationship, and ultimately it is jealousy that brings about a violence that juxtaposes against the sweetness of the two girls' love for each other. So, spoilers from here on out. Does this movie have a happy ending? The answer is yes. This was not a given, however. Writer-director Wanuri Kahir was initially asked by the Kenyan Film Classification Board to change the ending because it was deemed too positive and therefore promoting the homosexual lifestyle in a country where it is illegal. When she refused to do that, it was banned. It didn't stop the film, however, as she had to go overseas to find funding anyways, and ultimately it ended up debuting at the Cannes Film Festival as an official movie in the category called Un certain regard, making it the first Kenyan film to be selected, which is pretty cool. In refusing to change the happy ending, Wanuri Kahir was actively choosing to make her film part of a movement known as Afro Bubblegum, which aims to show content focused on hope and joy rather than hardship and terrors, which, when paired with the queer nature of this film, makes it a radical choice. It offers up a hopeful possibility in a world where that might feel impossible. That is not to say that the film doesn't also deal with some of the dangers of Kenna and Zeki's relationship. The two gossips, the kiosk lady and her daughter, expose them. This is brought about by jealousy. Firstly, when Zeki's friend accuses Kenna of taking Zeki away from her, which suggests that perhaps there had been some kind of romantic entanglement there. This alerts the rest of the neighborhood to what may be going on, and then because the daughter of the kiosk lady, who is seeing Blackstar, is aware that he has feelings for Kenna. She then exposes Kenna and Zeki's relationship for revenge. They are found sharing a kiss inside an abandoned van, the one place they had found that felt safe for them to share any intimacy. Alas, that place was not safe enough, and they are pulled from the van by a mob that then proceeds to beat them up. The people involved haven't even seen anything. Even just the accusation is enough to set them off, and it is only the arrival of the cops that prevents anything more serious happening. But the cops don't care to arrest anyone from the mob, instead blaming the two girls for what has happened to them. The violence of this moment juxtaposes against the love that Kenna and Zeki share. Their love is shown to be natural, gentle, and sweet, as I mentioned before, whereas the action of the mob and the police stand in stark contrast as mindless and brutish in their violence. Just as the exorcism that Kenna's mother makes Kenna endure with the priest is an emotional violence that seeks to demonize their love. The only people who appear to have any empathy for them is the gay boy who knows only too well what it is to be gay, and Kenna's father, who might have an inkling of what it is to make the difficult choice when he left his wife, Kenna's mother. The triumph of the film is that, despite Zeki being sent off to London out of the shame that her sexuality has brought to her family, years later, when Kenna has become a doctor, she comes across the gossiping kiosk lady who is a patient in the hospital she works at. In an attempt to taunt her, the woman announces that Zeki is finally back, but far from being the barbed remark she intended, it sends Kenna back to her old neighborhood, and there they are reunited. In essence, the gossip that had pulled them apart ultimately brings them back together, because despite everyone's best effort to keep them apart, their love cannot be dimmed by time or distance, and it makes for a satisfying ending. If you want more reviews like this, click the playlist on your screen, and while you're at it, a thumbs up never goes amiss. It helps my channel out. Until next time, lady lovers.